This is the part of the internet where we look at the world and go, huh, that's weird. Today, we're diving headfirst into the cartographical chaos that is international borders. Welcome to our countdown of the top 5 bizarre borders between countries. Now, borders, they seem so official, so permanent, drawn with such, authority. But sometimes the lines humans have drawn on this planet are less about geopolitical strategy and more about, historical accidents, stubborn negotiations, or what feels like a collective shrug followed by sure, why not? You won't believe how strange some of these boundaries are. We're talking about lines that bisect houses, towns that exist in a perpetual state of whose jurisdiction is this anyway, and geographical quirks that make you question the very sanity of mapmakers' past. These aren't just lines, they're stories of compromise, conflict, and sometimes pure, unadulterated absurdity. They remind us that the world is a messy, complicated place, and our attempts to neatly divide it often result in delightful, if bewildering, complexities. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey to the edges of nations, to places where one step can mean a different language, a different law, or even a different day. These are the borderlands where the familiar rules of geography seem to bend and twist, creating human landscapes that are as fascinating as they are perplexing. Prepare to have your understanding of here and there thoroughly scrambled. It's going to be an adventure in lines, an exploration of the wonderfully weird ways we've carved up our world. All right, first up on our tour of geographical oddities is the situation in Baarle, a town that truly embodies the phrase, it's complicated. Imagine a town, right? Now imagine that town is simultaneously in Belgium, specifically Baarle-Hertog and the Netherlands, known as Baarle-Nassau, and I don't mean it's like on the border, I mean the border runs it like a particularly indecisive spiderweb. We're talking about Belgian enclaves completely surrounded by Dutch territory and even Dutch counter-enclaves within those Belgian enclaves. It's enclaves all the way down, folks. This isn't a simple line, it's a mosaic, a patchwork quilt of sovereignty that dates back to medieval land swaps and treaties that probably made sense to someone at some point. The result of this centuries-old territorial tangle is a daily reality that's almost surreal. You can literally have one foot in Belgium and the other in the Netherlands while standing in your own living room. The border is often marked by simple white crosses or metal studs on the pavement running through gardens, cafes, and yes, even homes. Imagine arguing with your spouse about whose turn it is to take out the trash when the trash can is technically in another country from the kitchen. The civic implications are, as you might guess, a bureaucratic marvel. Which country collects your taxes if your front door is in Belgium but your bedroom is in the Netherlands? Which police force responds if there's an incident in a shop that straddles the line? It's a testament to human adaptability, and perhaps a shared sense of humor, that Baarle functions at all. The residents navigate this complex reality with a kind of pragmatism born of necessity. Different laws regarding fireworks or restaurant closing times can lead to some interesting cross-border shopping or dining strategy. It's a living museum of feudal land division, a place where the abstract concept of a national border becomes incredibly tangibly and sometimes comically real. It really makes you think about what a border even beyond a line we've agreed to believe in. Next, let's journey to the icy waters of the Bering Strait, home to the Diomedes Islands, Big Diomede and Little Diomede. These two specks of land are separated by a mere 2.4 miles, or about 3.8 kilometers of often frozen sea. You could theoretically kayak between them in a short amount of time, weather permitting. But here's the kicker, the thing that elevates this from a simple pair of islands to a truly bizarre border. Big Diomede belongs to Russia and Little Diomede belongs to the United States. And if that wasn't enough geopolitical drama packed into a tiny space, the international date line runs right between them. This means that when it's, say, 9 a.m. on a Saturday on Little Diomede, USA, it's already 6 a.m. on Sunday on Big Diomede, Russia. They are quite literally a day apart, despite being within visual range of each other. This has earned them the nicknames Tomorrow Island, Big Diomede, and Yesterday Island, Little Diomede. Think about that for a second. You could in theory celebrate New Year's Eve on Little Diomede, then hop over to Big Diomede and be almost a full day into the new year already, or if you traveled the other way, you could relive part of New Year's Eve. It's like a natural, albeit very cold, time machine for very specific, very short temporal jumps. The implications of this are more than just a fun party trick though. During the Cold War, this tiny gap was known as the Ice Curtain, a stark symbol of the divide between two global superpowers. Families were separated, and the indigenous Yupik people, who once freely traveled between the islands, found their ancestral roots severed by an invisible yet incredibly powerful political and temporal line. Today, Little Diomede has a small Inupiat village, while Big Diomede is primarily a Russian military base. It's a place where geography, politics, and the abstract human construct of time collide in a profoundly strange and compelling way, reminding us that even the most remote places can be at the heart of global narratives. Our next stop takes us to a border that's less about vast wilderness and more about, well, everyday architecture. Welcome to Derby Line, Vermont, USA, and Stanstead, Quebec, Canada. Here, the international border isn't just a polite suggestion somewhere out in a field. It runs directly through the town, bisecting streets, homes, and most famously, a building that embodies the spirit of cross-border cooperation and confusion, the Haskell Free Library and Opera House. This remarkable institution was deliberately built, straddling the US-Canada border in the early 20th century, as a symbol of friendship between the two nations. Imagine walking into a library where the circulation desk is in one country and a significant portion of the book stacks are in another. The main entrance and most of the Opera House seats are in the US, but the stage and the rest of the library's collection, that's Canada. There's literally a thick black line painted on the floor in parts of the building, demarcating the international boundary. You can sit in an opera seat in Vermont and watch a performance taking place in Quebec. For the community, it's a cherished local landmark, but for outsiders, it's a head-scratching example of how arbitrary borders can be when faced with the built environment. But it's not just the library. Throughout Derby Line and Stanstead, the border weaves an intricate path. Some houses have their front doors in one country and their backyards in another. There are stories of families having to navigate different legal systems for parts of their own property. This proximity creates a unique community dynamic, one where residents are intimately familiar with the customs and people of their neighboring nation. It's a place where international relations are played out, not in grand embassies, but across garden fences and through shared community spaces, a constant reminder that lines on a map can have very real, very personal, and sometimes very peculiar consequences for daily life. Now, let's talk about a border situation so complex, so utterly bewildering, that it almost defies belief. I'm referring to the former Indo-Bangladeshi enclaves, particularly around the Cooch Behar district. For centuries, this region was home to a geopolitical nesting doll situation, Indian enclaves within Bangladesh and Bangladeshi enclaves within India. But it didn't stop there. There were even counter-enclaves, an enclave of one country within an enclave of the other country, which is itself within the first country. And get this, even a third-order enclave, an Indian piece of land, inside a Bangladeshi piece of land, inside an Indian piece of land, all within Bangladesh proper. Yes, you heard that right. It was like geographical inception. This mind-boggling state of affairs was a legacy of old treaties and land disputes between local kings and rulers, centuries before India and Bangladesh even existed as modern nations. When the subcontinent was partitioned in 1947, these tiny, scattered pockets of sovereignty became international anomalies. Imagine living in one of these enclaves. You're an Indian citizen, but to get to mainland India, you have to cross foreign Bangladeshi territory. This created immense practical problems for the residents known as Chitmahalis. Access to basic services like healthcare, education, and law enforcement was incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible. They were in many ways stateless, caught in a bureaucratic limbo. The good news, and what makes this story both bizarre and ultimately hopeful, is that this incredibly complex border dispute was finally resolved in 2015. Through a historic land boundary agreement, India and Bangladesh exchanged these enclaves, simplifying the border and, most importantly, granting citizenship and access to services for tens of thousands of people who had lived in this precarious situation for generations. The Cooch Behar Enclaves stand as a powerful example of how historical legacies can create profoundly strange borders, and also how, with political will, even the most tangled geographical knots can eventually be undone, reminding us that borders, while powerful, are not immutable. Our final bizarre border takes us to the northern coast of Africa, to a city that is geographically African but politically European. I'm talking about Ceuta, an autonomous city of Spain, located on a small peninsula jutting out into the Mediterranean, directly across the Strait of Gibraltar from mainland Spain. However, its only land border is with Morocco, which surrounds it on the west and south. This makes Ceuta, along with its sister city Melilla, further east, a fascinating and often contentious example of a European territory existing as an exclave on the African continent. It's like a little piece of Spain decided to go on an extended vacation in Morocco and just stayed. The history of Ceuta is long and complex, having been controlled by various powers over the centuries before becoming definitively Spanish in the 17th century. For Spain, it's an integral part of the nation, with Spanish citizens, the euro as currency, and representation in the Spanish parliament. For Morocco, however, Ceuta, or Ceuta as it's known in Arabic, is considered occupied territory, a colonial remnant that should be returned. This fundamental disagreement creates a persistent geopolitical tension along this very unique border. A border that is in essence one of the land frontiers of the European Union with Africa. This border is not just a line on a map, it's a heavily fortified barrier complete with high fences, surveillance technology and significant border guard presence. It's become a focal point for migration as individuals from across Africa attempt to reach European soil by crossing into Ceuta. This makes the city a place of stark contrasts, a bustling Spanish port with European infrastructure and lifestyle existing cheek by jowl with the challenges and aspirations of a continent seeking opportunity. Ceuta forces us to confront questions about colonialism, sovereignty, and the very definition of national and continental boundaries in our interconnected world. It's a reminder that borders can be flashpoints reflecting much larger global dynamics. And there you have it. 5 of the most bizarre, perplexing, and downright fascinating borders our world has to offer. From houses split down the middle to islands a day apart, these geographical quirks remind us that the lines we draw on maps are often far stranger and more human than we might imagine. They are living history, testaments to political negotiation, accidental cartography, and the incredible ways people adapt to living in truly unique circumstances. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about all the other invisible lines that shape our lives. These borders are more than just geographical curiosities. They raise profound questions about identity, nationality, and the very nature of how we organize ourselves as a global community. They show us the seams of our world, the places where different systems, cultures, and even concepts of time rub up against each other in unexpected ways. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating content where we explore the weird and wonderful aspects of our planet. We love making these, and your support helps us keep digging into these kinds of stories. Exploring these oddities isn't just about pointing out the strange, it's about understanding the complexities that arise when human systems meet the physical world. Which border did you find the most bizarre? Or perhaps you know of another equally mind-bending boundary we didn't cover? Let us know in the comments below. We read as many as we can, and your suggestions often inspire future explorations. Until next time, keep questioning the lines, both visible and invisible.